In the vast world of American coin collecting, where every small detail can turn an ordinary coin into a priceless treasure, the 1966 U.S. Washington quarter-dollar error coin stands as a remarkable example of hidden fortune. Imagine this, a simple 25-cent piece that once jingled in pockets and vending machines, now capable of fetching over $22,000 to $45,000 at auctions. It's not just metal and design. It's a story of history, craftsmanship, and the beauty of imperfection that collectors around the world can't resist. To appreciate the rarity of this 1966 Washington quarter, we have to travel back to the mid-1960s, a time of great change for U.S. coinage. Just 2 years earlier, in 1964, the United States Mint made a major decision. It would no longer strike circulating coins in silver. Rising silver prices had caused a shortage, as people began hoarding coins for their metal value. By 1965, quarters and dimes were switched from 90% silver to a copper-nickel-clad composition, a copper core sandwiched between layers of nickel. This change saved the mint millions but also gave birth to a series of striking minting errors during the transitional years. The 1966 Washington quarter sits right in the heart of this transition period, making it one of the most fascinating coins of the decade. During this time, the mint was under tremendous pressure to meet demand. Billions of coins were being struck rapidly, often with worn-out dies and occasional mechanical malfunctions. These conditions led to numerous error coins, many of which are now considered valuable rarities by collectors. Let's start by looking at the design that has remained timeless since its debut in 1932. On the obverse, the coin features the noble portrait of George Washington, sculpted by John Flanagan. Washington faces left, his dignified profile embodying the nation's spirit of independence. The word liberty stretches across the top edge, while the motto "In God We Trust" appears on the left, just below Washington's chin. The date 1966 is centered at the bottom. The reverse design is equally symbolic. It depicts a proud bald eagle, wings spread wide, perched upon a bundle of arrows, representing readiness and strength, while 2 olive branches below symbolize peace. Around the rim are the inscriptions United States of America, E pluribus unum, and quarter dollar. Every detail of this coin speaks of the country's heritage and power, yet what makes the 1966 quarter truly special isn't just its design, but the fascinating mistakes that came out of the mint that year. One of the most celebrated and valuable of these is the struck on silver planchet error. During the 1960s, the mint was phasing out silver coins, and sometimes leftover silver planchets from 1964 were mistakenly used in later years. A 1966 Washington quarter struck on a 90% silver planchet instead of the intended copper-nickel composition can fetch over $40,000 at auction, depending on condition. The difference is subtle but significant. These coins weigh slightly less, about 6.25 grams instead of 5.67 grams, and produce a distinct ring when dropped. In addition to the silver planchet error, collectors have also discovered off-center strike errors from 1966 that are truly captivating. When a blank planchet is not correctly centered between the obverse and reverse dies, part of the design is struck off to one side, leaving a blank crescent-shaped area. The more off-center the strike, especially if the date remains visible, the more valuable the coin becomes. Some 1966 quarters with a 40% off-center strike have sold for around $23,500 in pristine condition. Another incredible variety is the double die obverse, DDO. This error occurs when the die used to strike the coin receives multiple misaligned impressions during the engraving process. As a result, parts of the design appear doubled, most notably the date, the word liberty, and Washington's eye and hairline. The doubling on the 1966 quarters is often bold and easily visible to the naked eye, giving these coins a mesmerizing appearance. Depending on grade and clarity, these DDO examples have brought prices up to $25,000 in major auctions. Then there's the fascinating broad strike error. Normally, coins are struck within a collar that holds them in place during minting, ensuring a perfect circular shape and reeded edges. But when the collar fails, the coin spreads outward slightly, appearing larger and with smooth edges. The result is a stretched, irregularly shaped quarter that still carries a full design. Broad-struck 1966 quarters in brilliant condition can easily command $21,000 to $24,000 from eager collectors. Let's not forget the clipped planchet errors, where part of the coin's edge is missing due to a misfeed during the cutting process of the metal strip. These clipped sections, often appearing as a clean crescent-shaped notch, are highly collectible when accompanied by a full date and clear design. Several 1966 clipped planchet quarters have appeared at auction and sold for around $20,800, proving that even missing metal can mean added value. Another visually fascinating minting flaw is the struck-through error. This happens when a piece of foreign material, such as grease, wire, or cloth, becomes lodged between the die and the planchet during striking. The obstruction leaves a unique, shallow depression or blank area on the coin. Each struck-through error is one of a kind. No two are ever identical. Some of these 1966 quarters, especially those struck through heavy grease on Washington's face or the eagle's wings, have brought $22,000 to $26,000 at high-profile sales. The year 1966 was also unique for another reason. It marked the absence of mint marks on U.S. coins. From 1965 through 1967, mint marks were deliberately removed to discourage coin hoarding. This makes it impossible to know whether a 1966 quarter was minted in Philadelphia, Denver, or San Francisco. Because of this, collectors place special attention on strike quality, planchet composition, and surface finish when identifying valuable error varieties. Beyond the technical details, what makes the 1966 Washington quarter truly extraordinary is the historical context behind its production. The mid-1960s was a time of experimentation and high pressure at the mint. The new clad coinage had just been introduced, and machines were still being adjusted to handle the new metal composition. This experimental period produced countless opportunities for mistakes, and each mistake became a hidden treasure for future generations. At first glance, the 1966 Washington quarter might look like any other, dull from years of circulation, its edges worn smooth. But under the right light, those tiny imperfections can reveal a story worth tens of thousands of dollars. Whether it's a double die showing two dates, an off-center strike with a missing edge, or a rare silver planchet error, these coins have turned casual finders into lucky owners of valuable pieces of American history. One particularly stunning example graded MS-67 by PCGS. A 1966 quarter with a double die obverse and perfect luster, sold for an astounding $44,500 at auction. Another specimen, a broad-struck error in mint state, changed hands for $23,000, drawing attention from collectors across the country. The charm lies not only in the rarity but also in the unpredictability. You never know what unique combination of flaws might appear on the next coin. Every coin collector dreams of finding something that defies the ordinary, something that carries both historical importance and visual intrigue. The 1966 Washington quarter with minting errors perfectly fits that dream. It's a coin born during one of the most transitional eras in U.S. minting history, carrying both the old-world craftsmanship and the new-age experimentation that shaped modern American coinage. For enthusiasts, this quarter is more than just a valuable piece of metal. It's a tangible symbol of change, a bridge between eras, and a reminder that even small imperfections can make something truly priceless. The next time you come across a 1966 quarter, take a closer look. Listen to its sound, examine its edges, and check for unusual marks. You might just discover that one of America's rarest error coins has been sitting unnoticed in your pocket all along. A 1966 Washington quarter worth not 25 cents, but perhaps $22,000, $30,000, or even $45,000. So, keep your eyes sharp and your curiosity alive. Because sometimes, a tiny piece of metal from the past can carry a story and a fortune beyond imagination. Every coin tells a story, but some carry tales far more valuable than their face value ever suggested. The 1970 U.S. Washington $quarter coin is one of those hidden legends, a small piece of silver-colored metal that, under the right circumstances, could transform an ordinary day into an extraordinary payday. Because among the billions of quarters minted that year, a handful escaped the mint with rare and mysterious errors, turning them into collector's gold. And today, these 1970 Washington quarter errors have fetched prices from $22,000 to over $48,000 at major auctions. all because of tiny imperfections most people wouldn't notice at first glance. At first sight, the 1970 Washington quarter looks simple, almost humble. The obverse, designed by John Flanagan, carries the bold and familiar portrait of George Washington, the first president of the United States. It's a design that has stood proudly on the quarter since 1932, marking his bicentennial birthday. The inscriptions "Liberty," "In God We Trust," and the year 1970 encircle the image, along with the mint mark just to the right of Washington's ponytail. The reverse side features the powerful American bald eagle, wings spread wide, clutching a bundle of arrows, a symbol of strength and defense, while an olive branch below it signifies peace. Around the edges, the inscriptions "United States of America," "E Pluribus Unum," and $quarter remind you of its national pride and everyday purpose. But 1970 was no ordinary year for U.S. coinage. The country had already stopped using silver in quarters after 1964, meaning these coins were made of a copper-nickel-clad composition instead of the shiny 90% silver alloy. Yet in this particular year, something special and unexpected happened behind the walls of the U.S. Mint. The 1970 Washington quarter-era coins became famous for one astonishing reason: striking mistakes that should never have happened. Some of these quarters were accidentally struck on foreign coin planchets, including coins intended for countries like Canada or the Philippines. These rare off-metal errors occurred when leftover foreign blanks remained in the minting machinery during production. Imagine a quarter with slightly different weight, thickness, or color. Something off just enough to make an expert pause and realize it's not just any coin. One of these unique 1970 quarters, struck on a silver 1941 Canadian quarter, made headlines after being authenticated by the Professional Coin Grading Service (PCGS) and sold for nearly $45,000 at auction. But not all 1970 quarter errors are off-metal mistakes. Some are classic examples of double die errors, one of the most popular types of minting mishaps among collectors. In these coins, the die, which stamps the design onto the blank, was impressed twice but misaligned just slightly, causing certain letters and numbers to appear doubled. On the 1970 quarter, you might see this doubling most clearly in the word "Liberty," the date 1970, or the motto "In God We Trust." To the untrained eye, it might look like a faint shadow or blur, but to a numismatist, it's a thrilling sign of a rare and valuable coin. High-grade examples of 1970 double die quarters have been known to fetch prices from $24,000 to $38,000, depending on their condition and sharpness of doubling. Another error that fascinates collectors is the off-center strike, when the coin blank isn't perfectly positioned between the obverse and reverse dies during minting. The result? A coin with part of the design missing, replaced by a crescent-shaped blank space along the rim. If the date and mint mark remain visible despite the off-center strike, the value can skyrocket. A 1970 Washington quarter struck 40% off-center with visible date details sold for an incredible $27,500. It's a striking reminder that perfection isn't always what collectors seek. Sometimes, imperfection steals the spotlight. One of the rarest and most visually dramatic 1970 quarter errors is the double denomination error, a mind-bending mistake where a coin is struck on top of another already minted coin. There are confirmed examples of 1970 quarters struck on previously struck dimes, meaning you can see traces of both the Roosevelt dime and the Washington quarter designs overlapping in one bizarre masterpiece. These errors are incredibly scarce, and when one appeared at auction, it fetched an astonishing $48,000 due to its rarity and immaculate condition. But the story doesn't end there. Another type of 1970 quarter error comes from broad strikes, coins struck without the collar that normally holds them in place during minting. Without this restraining ring, the metal spreads outward, creating a slightly wider and flatter coin with smooth edges instead of the usual reeded ones. A flawless 1970 broad-struck quarter with full details and original luster sold for $23,600, showing how even a missing tool in the minting process can create a collector's treasure. There are also clipped planchet errors, where a section of the coin seems to have been bitten off. This happens when the metal sheet overlaps during blank cutting, resulting in coins with crescent-shaped missing sections. The size and position of the clip affect its desirability. Smaller ones might bring hundreds, but larger, well-defined examples with visible design details have sold $4.21. 800. One of the most eye-catching 1970 errors involves struck-through debris, where grease, dust, or even a fragment of another coin got caught between the die and blank during striking. The result is a coin with partial or ghostly details. Roosevelt's face might look soft or flattened, or parts of the eagle's feathers might appear faint. These unique misstrikes, depending on severity and clarity, have realized prices upwards of $25,000 at major coin auctions. And then, of course, there are the rotated die errors. Normally, when you flip a coin from top to bottom, the reverse should appear perfectly upright. But in these cases, the reverse image is rotated at an angle, sometimes 45, 90, or even 180 degrees. It's a simple error, yet incredibly captivating to collectors because it's visible at a glance. A beautifully preserved 1970 Washington quarter with a 180-degree rotated reverse was sold for $26,400. Proving that sometimes the smallest deviations make the biggest impact. Let's not forget that all these rare errors occurred during a time when the mint was transitioning technologically and pushing to meet high production demands. The Philadelphia, no mint mark, and Denver, D facilities produced millions of quarters in 1970, while the San Francisco Mint, S, focused on proof issues for collectors. Among billions of flawless coins, only a handful emerged with these once-in-a-lifetime errors, making them truly remarkable survivors of the minting process. When collectors come across a 1970 Washington quarter, they often grab a magnifying glass to inspect every detail: the letters, the date, the edge, and even the texture of the surface. Because you never know, that small piece of metal could be one of those rare errors worth $22,000, $35,000, or even over $45,000. The value of these coins depends on three main things: the type of error, its visibility, and the coin's condition. The more dramatic and well-preserved the mistake, the more collectors are willing to pay. Coins graded MS-65 or higher with bold, unmistakable errors are the most sought after and can command five-figure sums. It's almost poetic. The idea that a simple accident inside the mint decades ago could lead to such astonishing value today. These error coins are more than just currency. They're artifacts of human error and mechanical imperfection, sealed forever in metal. They remind us that even in the most precise systems, a touch of unpredictability can create something truly extraordinary. So, the next time you come across a 1970 Washington quarter, don't just toss it into your change jar. Look closer. Check for doubled letters, off-center strikes, or a clipped edge, because that small detail you might overlook could be the difference between 10 cents and tens of thousands of dollars. And that's the magic of coins like the 1970 U.S. Washington quarter-dollar error. Proof that even the smallest missteps in history can turn into treasures worth remembering, collecting, and cherishing. The 1998 U.S. Washington quarter-dollar coin with minting errors is one of those thrilling discoveries that transforms a simple pocket change into a valuable collectible. A coin that, to the untrained eye, looks ordinary but can be worth between $20,000 and $47,000 depending on its condition, rarity, and type of error. Imagine flipping through your spare change and realizing that one of your quarters, a small, everyday piece of metal, could actually pay for a new car or even a college semester. That's the magic of minting errors, and the 1998 Washington quarter is one of the finest examples of that hidden treasure. The story of the Washington quarter goes back to 1932, when it was introduced to commemorate the 200th anniversary of George Washington's birth. The design by sculptor John Flanagan quickly became one of the most iconic in U.S. coinage history. On the obverse, Washington's left-facing portrait dominates the design, with liberty arched proudly above his head and "In God We Trust" positioned elegantly to the left. Beneath his neckline rests the date, in this case, 1998, and just beside it, you'll find the mint mark, which may be a P for Philadelphia, D for Denver, or S for San Francisco. The reverse of the 1998 quarter, prior to the launch of the 50-state quarters program in 1999, still featured the classic eagle design that had adorned the coin since 1932. The majestic bald eagle, wings spread wide, clutches a bundle of arrows, symbols of strength and readiness, surrounded by olive branches symbolizing peace. Encircling the design are the inscriptions United States of America, E Pluribus Unum, and quarter dollar. It's a design that combines grace and patriotism, simplicity and power, and yet, even this timeless piece saw its fair share of remarkable mistakes in 1998 that would turn it into one of the most sought-after coins in modern history. Now, the 1998 quarter was struck in enormous quantities. more than 1.6 billion coins rolled out of U.S. mint facilities in Philadelphia and Denver combined. But as any collector knows, even in mass production, perfection is never guaranteed. During the minting process, powerful presses strike each blank planchet with up to 60 tons of force, imprinting the coin's intricate details in milliseconds. If something goes slightly off, even by the tiniest fraction, the result can be a minting error that escapes inspection and ends up in circulation. And those errors are what transform an ordinary 25-cent coin into a collector's dream. Among the most spectacular and valuable 1998 Washington quarter errors are off-center strikes, double die errors, broad strikes, die cracks, missing clad layers, and struck-through grease or debris errors. Each type of error offers a unique window into how the minting process can go wrong, and why collectors are willing to pay thousands, even tens of thousands, for these flawed but fascinating coins. One of the most jaw-dropping 1998 quarter errors is the double die obverse, where parts of the design appear to have been struck twice, creating a noticeable doubling effect. This doubling can often be seen in the inscriptions "Liberty" or "In God We Trust," or even in the fine details of Washington's eye and hair. A strong double die example, especially in mint state condition, can command serious money. One such coin, graded MS-67 by PCGS, sold for a staggering $28,400 at a 2022 coin auction, a result that stunned even seasoned collectors. Equally intriguing is the missing clad layer error, which happens when one of the outer layers of copper-nickel fails to bond properly with the inner copper core. The result? A quarter that looks oddly discolored, coppery red on one side and silvery on the other, and feels slightly lighter than normal. These errors are visually striking and instantly recognizable. In 1998, several such examples were found, and collectors went wild for them. Depending on their condition and which side is missing the clad layer, these coins have fetched prices between $20,000 and $35,000 at auctions. Then there's the off-center strike, one of the most dramatic and easily identifiable minting errors. This happens when the coin blank isn't properly centered between the dies during striking, causing part of the design to be missing and the rest to appear shifted or misaligned. The degree of off-centering determines its value. The more extreme the shift, the higher the price. For example, a 1998 D quarter struck 35% off-center, with part of Washington's face missing, sold for $30,200 at a rare coin show in Chicago. That's a life-changing sum for a coin originally worth just 25 cents. Another fascinating error found in the 1998 quarters is the broad strike error. Normally, a coin is held tightly in place by a collar that shapes its rim during minting. But when that collar malfunctions or fails to engage, the metal spreads outward, giving the coin a larger diameter and a slightly warped appearance. These coins look stretched and lack the crisp rim found on normal quarters. Broad-struck 1998 quarters, especially those in uncirculated condition, have been known to sell for $22,500 to $27,000, depending on visual appeal and certification. Collectors also hunt for die cracks and cuds, which occur when the minting die develops fractures or breaks during production. These cracks or raised blobs of metal can appear across Washington's face, through the lettering, or along the rim of the coin. Each one is unique. No two cracks look exactly alike. Some of the 1998 quarters with dramatic die breaks, especially near the word Liberty, have become fan favorites among error enthusiasts. One remarkable example with a bold die cut covering the rim and part of Washington's hair sold for $23,800 in a heritage auction event in 2021. But perhaps the most mysterious and visually haunting error is the struck-through grease error, where parts of the design appear faint or missing altogether. This happens when grease, dirt, or other debris gets lodged in the die cavity during striking, preventing it from fully imprinting the design onto the coin. On some 1998 quarters, "In God We Trust," or the date appears weak or ghost-like, a result that gives the coin an almost ethereal look. While many of these are subtle, a few dramatic examples have sold for $21,600 or more when discovered in pristine condition. Even the proof versions of the 1998 quarters weren't immune to minting mishaps. Proof coins, struck in San Francisco with the S mint mark, are supposed to be flawless, with mirror-like fields and frosted details. But a few 1998 S-proof quarters surfaced with doubling on the eagle's wings or lettering. These proof errors are exceedingly rare because of the tight quality control standards for proof coins. Nonetheless, one such example graded PR69 with a visible double die reverse fetched $32,000, cementing the 1998 proof error quarter as a must-have for serious collectors. What makes the 1998 Washington quarter particularly fascinating is its place in history, right at the crossroads between the classic Eagle reverse design and the soon-to-launch State Quarter series that began in 1999. Collectors see this year as the end of an era, and any coin from that transition period featuring a minting error carries added intrigue and historical value. It's not just an error coin, it's a relic from the final chapter of a 66-year design legacy. Many collectors who own a 1998 error quarter describe the experience as holding a piece of minting history in their hands. Each imperfection tells a story of a moment when machinery faltered, dies wore down, or human oversight let a mistake slip through. These coins are living proof that even in one of the most technologically advanced mints in the world, perfection is elusive. Experts also point out that the rising popularity of error coins in the modern market has made examples like the 1998 quarter even more desirable. Auction houses and grading companies like PCGS and NGC have seen increasing submissions of late 20th century errors, with collectors eager to secure rare pieces before values climb even higher. And they are climbing fast. Coins once selling for a few $1,000s a decade ago now regularly break the $20,000 to $40,000 range, especially when they're graded at high mint state levels. What's especially exciting is that coins like the 1998 quarter could still be out there, hiding in plain sight. Because it's a relatively modern issue, it's entirely possible that someone might stumble upon a valuable error coin in circulation, tucked away in an old coin jar or resting in a change drawer. Stories of lucky finds continue to emerge, everyday people discovering that their humble quarter could be worth more than they ever imagined. The beauty of the 1998 Washington quarter error coin lies not only in its monetary value but in its story. It's a reminder that mistakes can become masterpieces, that even a small flaw can make something truly extraordinary. Whether it's a double die that gives Washington a shadowed expression, an off-center strike that warps his portrait, or a missing clad layer that reveals the coin's fiery copper heart, each 1998 error quarter is a one-of-a-kind artifact, a piece of American minting history that slipped through the cracks to tell its own tale.